Hello friends and welcome back to Enterprise Architecture. So today we are playing more Satisfactory Update 6, and I really wanted to get started on our production of photovoltaic cells from the refined power mod so we can switch to solar. Now that requires converting all of this extra coal we have into carbon dust, and then the carbon dust converted over into carbon mesh. The carbon mesh then becomes photovoltaic cells, and we need a few other extra ingredients to get there. So today we're going to build up a mini factory, and I think we're going to do that right above where we have our coal mining here set up already. Now, I'm going to admit straight off that recording this episode was a bit of a hassle. If you heard the last two episodes, you probably already know that I had some problems with my voiceover recording, with my software I was using. So this is a post-recording that I'm doing after the fact. So this might be a little weird compared to most episodes that we've listened to. But we're going to dive right in and we're going to give it our best anyway. I'll also mention that the math here really got to me. So like these two coal miners that you see over there, I've just had to upgrade those to Mark II. Again, we just unlocked steel production and advanced steel production just a little while ago. And I've also upgraded the first two we had here. So our entire coal plant is now just running off of 2 miners. And we've also overclocked the miner we have as well. So we're getting 240 coal per minute off of that. So that's a pretty significant amount. So yeah, we're going to dive right in and start building a plant to do all of the refinement. Now, there's going to be a couple other things that we need to do for this to actually work. We're going to need to get copper, which there's some over immediately adjacent here between the coal plant and where we're at. And we're also going to need quartz crystal. So here you can see the carbon dust recipe. 2 coal gives us 5 carbon dust, but the photovoltaic cells also need quartz. And quartz we have right back behind our coal plant, so we'll have to run those lines down. So that's going to be somewhat problematic, but we do need to set that up. And then as I mentioned, carbon mesh, we need copper wire. So we have to mine the copper and convert it into wire before we can actually turn it into our carbon mesh. So we're going to go ahead and set up our base immediately adjacent to the mini steel plant that we had set up previously here. And we're actually going to go ahead and share a wall with it. And now you're seeing right there the coal, the copper. So you can see we don't actually have to go very far with it. All right, so what we're going to do is just run a series of foundations really right adjacent and actually even sharing a wall with that copper plant we built. So we're just going to build that out here, further over the ravine and right over our coal miners that we'd already set up. And yeah, we're just going to keep running with this and extending it out and over. Okay, so we're just going to lay out our factory here, right next to the other one. And we're going to use Smart Mod to help us with this a little bit as well. Again, I really love Smart Mod for helping with layout because we can just quickly repeat patterns over and over again. Now, my coal is coming up from beneath this platform. So I'm using a through hole to just bring it down from below here. Oof, and trying not to fall off this platform. And I'm just gonna use a little ramp to kind of get down over the side of this thing so I can kind of get a better view into how I'm trying to connect to this. So there's my miner, and there's the other end of the miner. Where the lift is already coming up. So I'm just going to try and connect it to this floor hole I just built, just like so. There we go. And now I just need a conveyor belt to run across. And there we have it. So now that's going to be bringing in all of our coal up through the bottom of our base that we've got there and into the mini factory that I'm setting up right here. And again, Smart Mod, I think works way better than Zooping. I use them kind of interchangeably, but if I'm putting up an entire big chunky wall, I'm definitely going to be using Smart Mod for that. Okay, and adding a little door into our factory. And yeah, as you can see here, I thought that this was going to be enough space originally, and it absolutely was not enough space. We did go ahead and start framing this out. I went ahead and added the second floor a little bit, and put in another elevator. Again, if you saw the last couple episodes, you know I'm going to use elevators in all of my factories to get from floor to floor, instead of having to set up a whole bunch of stairs. I just find it works a lot better. It's a lot easier to work with. You do have to power it though. Okay, so we are going to have more than enough carbon dust at the end of the day. We're producing roughly 600 carbon dust down there, but wire is going to be our bottleneck because we only have a single copper node that you can see right over there on that end. And unfortunately, that means the most copper we're going to be able to get off of that normal node is 120 copper per minute, which roughly gets doubled then into wire at 240 per minute. So yeah, that's going to be the thing that's holding us up here for the carbon mesh that we're producing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and lay this out for our carbon mesh setup. And this is where I'm starting to realize that I did not give myself enough space to set all of this up, unfortunately. Yeah, awkward and embarrassing after the fact to realize there's just no way to make this fit elegantly. Yeah, see, it's too close. Technically, those belts actually are connected. If you ran an input into here, even though you can't see them, there are a pair of invisible belts there that are basically sitting underneath the constructor there. Excuse me, the assembler. But yeah, it looks terrible. They're basically invisible belts. Yeah, so we're just going to give up on this approach and redesign this base significantly. Okay. So before we get back to that setup, we are going to go ahead and set up our factory for our copper. Now, again, we're going to overclock the copper coming in here so that we get a full 240 per minute. And that actually means we can do 480 wire per minute altogether because we're doubling it, going from ingots to wire. So we're using the energy shards that we unlocked in the previous episode, and overclocking to the maximum extent possible the single copper node we have here in a Mark II miner. So again, that gives us a full 480 wire that's going to be coming out. Now, I want to set up a little copper refinery plant to make the wire, a little mini factory again next to the carbon factory I have up there, so that I can run the copper into the side there. I think that'll be the easiest way to do it. So I just plunk down this little mini foundation right here next to it, and start laying it out just like we did with the previous setup. And of course we need Mark III belts now because 240 is more than we can fit on a Mark II belt. There we go. right? So 1 copper becomes 2 wire. And everything else in our calculations is going to be hinging off of that base number. That's going to determine the maximum output of our photovoltaic cells at the end of this build. If we ran more copper nodes over here, we could continue to maximize this out using all of the carbon dust that we have available, but can't do that quite yet, not without some serious routing and setting up more miners. So we're going to set up on the bottom layer of this factory a row of smelters. And if I remember correctly, it's going to take 30 copper ingots per smelter, or produce 30 copper ingots per smelter. It's going to take in 30 ore and produce 30. So there we go. No, not caterium, copper. Okay. So 30 in, 30 out. And again, since it's only 30 in and out, we're using Mark 1 belts. Again, this is a thing that I keep doing throughout the early game play, is not using the default Mark 3 belts. SmartMod always uses the highest tier belt that you have available when it's doing its connections. But again, we don't need that much throughput. A Mark 1 belt can handle up to 60 items on it per minute, and again, that's way more than we need right now. But again, our belts coming in and out all should be Mark 3. Okay, so again, we're using SmartMod so that we can just build out a whole row of smelters real fast. And again, it's really smart in that it remembers the settings for the previous smelter, in addition to hooking up all of the belts, mergers, all of the things that you're going to need. It works wonders. Okay, there we go. A massive row of smelters ready to start producing our copper ingots. So of course we do need to connect all of these up. And also, if you're watching closely, you'll note that I accidentally did 10 instead of the 8 that I actually need here. So we've got room for future expansion, but it's more than I technically needed for this build. So here we're just framing in the walls real quick. Plonking these down. And again, SmartMod doing all the heavy lifting for us so that we can build out our factory ridiculously fast. Back in the old days, it would have taken me, I don't know, an hour to do what I can do in basically 5 minutes with SmartMod. Between putting all the foundations down, putting the walls up, connecting the belts, copying the machine settings, it would take a long time in the old days. Okay, so the only thing we're missing here now, of course, for all of this to work is power. So we just run our power cables here. Again, using the same general pattern that I used in the last episode, where we're running a wall outlet and connecting 2 machines to it. Also going back and making sure that all of our belts are marked 1 here for input and output. Okay. So yeah, until we have unlocked actually the Caterium Mark II power poles, but I haven't gone back and used the Awesome Shop to buy the Mark II wall outlets yet. So as a result, we're doing this 2 machines per wall outlet setup right now. And again, those last 2 I'm not going to connect, because if you do run power to them, they're going to drain power even when they're not working. So I only connect the first 8 there, and I leave the rest unconnected. Okay, now for this, we're going to continue to want to go up. And I think we're going to go out the front with our copper ingots that we're making. But I'm going to do it above the ground level just to make this a little cleaner and easier for getting around. So here you see that we're using a conveyor to run that up the wall to basically right below the floor of the next layer. And of course, dropping in a yet another elevator again. Elevator mod is fantastic. We're going to continue to use that for pretty much everything. We are going to make sure it's facing the right direction this time. And as always, no railings, and turn off our effects volume. And then the first floor is going to be 12 meters up. We wire it up. And now we can use our elevator. And away we go. Okay. Now we just need to finish framing in the rest of the floor because I got distracted by wiring. So I need to put that wall up, and then we just plunk down our foundations right on top, just like that. There we go. So this is a common pattern I like to use in my mini factories, where I will do progressive levels up the building of increasingly complex resources. And you may have noticed this in the last episode when we were doing our Caterium, or the previous one where we were doing our iron production. I use this same pattern in pretty much all of my factories. And that works pretty well for me. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated when you start having mixed inputs. Basically, the second that you need more than one item to produce the next item in the chain, that's when I usually like to spin those off into separate factories. Now, we're not technically doing that today because I'm doing my carbon production right underneath of where we're going to be doing the carbon mesh and everything else. But it's okay for this this one exception to the rule. All right, so you can see here we are finishing up setting up our copper production, getting all of that lovely copper ingots turned into copper wire, and we're just going to frame this out really quick again, using exactly the same layout effectively as we did below, just like that. And bringing in our Mark III belt for all 240 ingots into our system. Now, because we can only get 240 items on a belt, we are going to have to split our output. So basically, of these assemblers I'm building, half of them will be outputting onto a Mark III belt, and the other half will be on a separate second belt. And now at this point in the build, I am realizing I may have done this backwards from where I technically wanted it. So I'm going to have to probably go up and over to go out that side there as I wanted, but we'll burn that bridge when we come to it. Yes, I know the phrase is supposed to be cross that bridge when we come to it, but and just zooping in some more walls real quick. Zoop. And smart modding this one out. And then back up. There we go. And then just putting a back wall here now that we know how big this is going to be. And again, I use this pattern a lot. I mentioned it in the previous episode. I like to leave the back open for expansion in general when I'm building out these factories. And that way you have more room to grow as you continue to upgrade things. Now one thing to note here, my counting was off. We can actually only do 240 in this tightly constrained space that we have here, 240 wire, just because of the low output rate of the assemblers here. So I'm actually splitting off our ingots into two and going up another level. And of course we still need to wire everything up. Per usual, always waiting till the very, very last minute to wire up our factory. And just like this. I do have to admit the wiring tends to be the most tedious part. It's the only thing that, as far as I know, SmartMod does not do for you, which is kind of a shame. That would make it just an absolutely seamless experience. But I guess it would have to know how you want to run your power. Since I think most people kind of use wall outlets in most of the builds I've seen, or place the outlets on the ceiling and run them down instead of using power poles. Now this is the moment in the build where I realized I built this all going in the wrong direction, and that I really want my wire output to go the opposite direction. So yeah, I will go through and redo all of that through the magic of editing. And also through the magic of editing, I've duplicated everything that you saw me just do on the floor that we just went through onto a floor above, so that we have 240 wire coming through in two different batches. So yeah, and here we have all of our carbon dust that we had set up previously. Again, each of those lines there's 3 lines, each producing 200 carbon dust apiece. But again, the wire is our bottleneck here, so that's as much as we're going to be able to do with the amount of wire we have coming in, the 480. So we can do a lot of future expansion now as well with that extra carbon dust if we want to later. Now, this means that we're going to need 6 assemblers, all said and done. Okay, so here we have our row of assemblers all set up. So each of these is taking in 80 wire and 40 carbon dust per minute, and that's only producing 20 carbon mesh. Now, because of our belt bottleneck, we can only fit 240 wire, well, technically 270, but for our practical purposes, 240 wire on a single belt. And that means here we have 2 different rows coming in. We have this bottom row of 240, which goes into 3 of these, and the top row, which goes into the next set of 3. Of course, we have more than enough carbon, more than we know what to do with. Each of these belts is bringing in 200, so we have absolutely plenty here. You can see that the first 200 is being used on the first 5 of these. 5 times 40 is 200. And then we are branching off just the last little bit into this belt here for the last one for the extra remaining 40. And that accounts for all of our carbon. Now, as far as output goes, again, we have 20 carbon mesh per minute. And we have 6 of these, so that's only 120. That's easy for us. That is not really enough to worry about. We can fit that on a belt, no problem. Now all we need to do is get it out of our building. So for that, we're just going to drop in a conveyor wall. I'm going to do a double conveyor wall for now, just because I think we're going to do some future expansion and upgrading here, but we're not going to be using most of that right now. So we just bring this over, and we'll do it right here. 1, 2, like that. And then that perfectly will line up to our output belt. Okay, and now you can see that everything is starting to flow. So let's just go down here and set up our storage for it. Now, we do use carbon mesh in a couple of different machines that we are going to be making here, particularly around the refined power mod. So I'm going to fork off for now into a small container some of our production. But that's going to fill up relatively quickly, but this is only going to be temporary here until we fill up one container because we want to use the whole rest of our carbon mesh for photovoltaic cells. So that is the end goal here. So we're going to do a Mark III, and we're reversing it here. And we're going to pull that right off of this belt, like so. And then we drag our Mark III belt and out here, right there. Okay, just like that. And these will start coming down immediately and filling up the belt. It looks like it's going a little slower than I'd expect, but maybe I just haven't seen these in a while. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is drop a splitter right off of that. So temporarily, we can run another set of belts up here, just like that. And there we go. So now we have another set going up. Okay, now what we need to do is start setting up for our photovoltaic cell production. And to do that, we need to run our quartz crystal from all the way over there to all the way back up here. And then into our production facility that we have here. So we're probably going to bring it in over this side, most likely. Yeah, I think that's going to be the way to do this. Yeah, right here, parallel to basically where we have these lines coming in already. You know what, let's just go ahead and let's just block this in. It's not going to hurt us. Okay, just like that. And now we're gonna run down there and bring our lines over. Okay, so there we have it. I have now ran our quartz production all the way from over there at the top, and you can see that white box over there behind the coal factory. It's running 240 per minute quartz refined crystals now into our base here to line up with the carbon production we've already created. Now to do that, I also had to upgrade both of our miners up there to Mark II miners so they double their output, and kind of redo our entire setup there, which took quite a bit of doing. But now it's all run into the base here and we're ready to get building. Okay, so now all we have to do is set up our assemblers. Now, these assemblers are going to take 60 per minute quartz crystal and 30 per minute carbon mesh, and that's going to give us a mere 6 per minute photovoltaic cells. That's not a lot, but it's all we can do for now. So, given that we have 240 quartz crystal coming in, 120 carbon mesh, that means we just need 4 of these assemblers. So let's go ahead and connect it up real quick. First, we're going to connect our splitters right here, just as we did the last time. And again, I'm not going to make the same mistake for the 6th time. I'm going to make sure I'm on top when I am hooking this up. And then we go and set our mergers coming back out the other side the same way, just like that. Great, 60, 30, 6. Okay. And a reminder, once again, we're going to downgrade our belts to Mark I belts. Slow and steady wins the race. Okay, so now we just copy our assemblers down the rest of the row. Again, Smart Mod makes this real easy, just like that. and it's all connected up for us. The only thing we'll have to do is, once again, downgrade our belts and then connect electricity. Okay, we just run our power lines here off the wall, plunk this down, say right about there, there, and there, and then we keep running it. And we'll put it there, and there. Okay, these are all ready to go. The last thing to do is to start inserting our various resources like so, and cut a hole in the wall to output the finished products back down here. And again, I think I'm just going to dump it kind of right in the middle there awkwardly. I don't think I'm going to worry too much about perfection at this point. Let's do a single wall hole for now, and like so. Eventually our carbon should start popping out. Oh, yep, and we've already got 4 made. Okay, so let's go back down. And we can connect this up just a little further. Just a little further. There we go. Half a foundation. And we'll squeeze it over next to the wall as well, so we don't have to worry about the weirdness there. Okay, just like that. And there we go. I'm off by a little bit, but you know what? It's not a big deal. Okay, 23 to start. That's not a lot. But I do want to show, before we wrap up this episode, what we can do with those. So Refined Power has these solar panels, and you can just plonk these down just about anywhere, and you'll start immediately generating a little bit of solar power. And these are basically a quarter of a foundation big for these particular sizes. So yeah, if I wanted to, I could just, stick it here. And as we see, during the day only are we going to be generating power. So we do need a battery backup system before we can really take full advantage of this. And right now you can see we're getting 0 megawatts because it's nighttime. Right, that's why. One of the big drawbacks of solar, it only works during the day. But anyways, what you would be seeing is just a few sad megawatts of power. So yeah, that's it. That's our photovoltaic cells being produced right there, so that we can slowly make our way to convert to solar. Now, before I can really take advantage of this, I really need to at least unlock the Mark II solar generators, which have a much better efficiency ratio. And again, I also need to build a massive battery system to store enough energy that it can work at night and during the day. But we're going to save that for a future episode once we have enough solar panels here, photovoltaic cells, to make a lot of solar panels. Right now, we are nowhere close to what we need to be able to put a dent in this. So yeah, we're just going to keep that running in the background while we go build a couple of more things. But for today, I think we've reached a good stopping point. We set up a whole new massive couple of wings of factory. We've got copper production over there. I increased our quartz production, and of course got all of our carbon and photovoltaic cells built here in this new plant. So that's a really successful episode, although it took me a couple of attempts to get this right. So thank you again for watching Enterprise Architecture, and we'll see you back here next time. Bye, friends.